So Fern, big YouTube channel, has made a video about pyramids just a couple hours ago. Everyone's telling me to watch it. Let's take a look. So this channel is known for like really good storytelling and good visuals. We might get some really good pyramid building visuals.
This is the Great Pyramid of Giza. For over 4,600 years, it has endured in the Egyptian desert. For most of human civilization, it was the tallest building in the world.
Surpassed only in 1350 in London by a clock tower. So the Great Pyramid was the tallest man-made structure for around 3,000 years.
The four sides are aligned to the cardinal directions.
Nice, good mention.
Near perfect accuracy.
This is true. The pyramid is basically aligned perfectly to northwest, east, and south. They at least wanted to achieve that based on how close it is. But
thousands of years before the compass was even invented. To this day, no one has found out how exactly it was built, and we will tackle 3 fascinating theories of its construction.
Okay,
this
it's about building
is the insane engineering of the pyramids.
I appreciate that. I thought it was more like, yeah, the engineering of it. Okay, yeah. Nice. Yeah, this is one of the things that fascinate me the most about the pyramids.
This is Khufu, a pharaoh of ancient Egypt.
So I can just tell you guys, the fascinating thing about Khufu, by the way, there are pharaohs in Egypt that have so many statues of them. Even though they're grieved, it's unmistakable that it's theirs. This statue that you're seeing is like this big. And it was found way away from the pyramids. It was not found close to the Giza Plateau. Like, this is not a big statue. It's literally like this small, but yeah. And they reason that it's because of jealousy. Like, if you are taking the throne, succeeding Khufu, and you're not in his family, let's say, one of the best ways to make yourself the most high and mighty person is just to destroy all possible statues of people before you. It's so small. Bro, you guys will know these measurements. Height 7.5 centimeters. Little under average, actually.
His father, Sneferu, also a god, is buried here. He's the
Sneferu or Snefru?
pharaoh who taught Egypt how to build its pyramids.
No. Wrong pyramid. Sorry, guys. It happens every time. This is the red. This is the red pyramid.
Every year, the Nile overflows and fertilizes the land with rich topsoil.
Yep.
This gives ancient Egypt the ability to grow excess crops to keep its production well fed, and to sustain a standing army. The army regularly goes out and terrorizes Egypt's neighbors, plundering their wealth to bring home for the pharaoh. So Khufu has all
This is the part we don't mention, right? We talk about the pyramids, not the atrocities, hello?
the money he needs to build something very, very extra. But money isn't everything.
We don't talk
Khufu
about all
also
the
needs the
atrocities.
smartest architect to design a building that will set him up for eternity. There's only one man for the job, Khufu's half-brother, Hemiunu. He was born for the role, a once-in-a-generation genius. The design for his pyramid won't just follow in his father's footsteps, it will surpass it in every way. Inside will be 3 burial chambers, with a passageway leading to each. Once complete from the inside, the pyramid will be encased in perfectly smooth white limestone. It will dazzle in the sunlight and gleam in the moonlight.
I also like here, by the way, they've gone away from the golden capstone, which there's no basis for in the Old Kingdom.
Finally, a golden capstone.
Literally no basis for this. Sorry. I was just appreciating the...
Placed on top. Once all is put in place,
that's rough.
Khufu will be ready for eternity. But how exactly did they do it? Well, nobody knows. The debate's been raging for hundreds of years, and researchers are constantly uncovering new archaeological evidence and bizarre engineering quirks that give birth to new theories. Sometimes with cutting-edge tech, sometimes by sheer dumb luck. There are theories supported by scientific research, which we will cover, and there's tons of dubious theories that rely on wild speculation,
Aliens,
which we'll
let's
ignore.
go.
We've broken down 3 scientific theories about what the Egyptian secret could be, in order of easy, medium, and hard. Imagine you would...
Oh, easy. Level 1, external ramp theory. Level 1, of course. Level 1, crook versus level 100 boss. We'll get to it, yeah. External ramp, couple of problems. It's actually quite likely, but not one ramp. I would guess multiple.
If you've got something heavy, you've got to move somewhere high. The simplest, most straightforward way is to just drag it up a ramp. You tie it with some rope, get help from as many people.
This is the visual we've seen in all the movies, right? Like you've seen like some Hollywood Egypt movie from the 60s, 70s. This is the visual we have in our head. Oh, pull up a long ramp.
as can fit on the ramp and heave it up together.
It's got some problems.
As the pyramid grows, the ramp would be raised and extended to accommodate the increasing height. But there's no consensus on the size, shape, and incline of such a ramp. That's because after a certain height, the external ramp theory starts to fall apart. To move a 2-ton block up a slope...
This video is very base so far. Yes, it does, because the ramp will be bigger than the actual pyramid. Like, the materials required to build a ramp are just as hard to do, kind of, than as the blocks themselves.
You need a team of about 12 workers. And as the pyramid starts to grow, your ramp either needs to become steeper or longer to reach the top.
And like, if you have it this steep, you need more manpower. But there's like great logistical difficulty to having like several hundred people, whether it be 500 people or more, pulling at the same time up a ramp without anyone messing up or the blocks falling or the pyramid being damaged. Great logistical problem. So it's far more likely the ramp would be less steep, but then it would have to be so long. So it doesn't make sense.
Possible. Engineers calculate that 8% is the steepest incline for average workers to complete their task. This ramp would need to be very, very long, like way more than a kilometer.
Yeah.
It'd require a few million tons of material, up to 3 times as much volume as the entire pyramid. Remains of such an enormous ramp haven't been found, and it would take thousands of workers decades just to build it. Decades Khufu doesn't have to spare.
External ramp theory is getting destroyed here. I love it. Good video so far. Good video.
This brings us to theory number 2. It's the late 90s.
The pyramid is not crooked.
A French engineer, Henri Audin, is watching a documentary about the pyramids. It explains the pyramid construction with the external ramp theory, but Henri is skeptical. To his engineering mind, it just doesn't make sense.
Oh, it is. Yeah, this is the story. His dad told him about this.
He calls up his architect's son, Jean-Pierre Audin,
yeah,
and asks his opinion.
This guy's the anime protagonist of internal ramp theory.
Jean-Pierre is intrigued. Without knowing much about ancient Egypt at all, or even visiting the pyramid, he starts puzzling over other ways the blocks could have been lifted.
They hated him. They hated him so much. Especially Sahi Awaz does not like this guy, and Sahi was the Minister of Antiquities, and basically did everything he could to stop Jean-Pierre from even getting to test his theories. He's probably going to talk about it.
Most of them ignore him. He's an outsider, and it's a field notorious for gatekeeping.
Villain.
French guy who knows nothing, because there is no evidence.
But his theory has since gained traction, because Audin has put himself into the shoes of Emeunu, thinking through every last detail. Here's a concise version. Emeunu does use an external ramp for the first part of the pyramid,
corner,
up to around 60 meters.
There are, by the way, problems with this too. I'll touch on it. We're just going to watch this first.
Ramp is used to build the widest, lower levels of the pyramid. It's also used to haul the heavy granite beams that compose the king's chamber. But hundreds of workers hauling a 50-ton block in a small space is logistically challenging. So Audin believes Emeunu used the long 46-meter corridor, the Grand Gallery, as an ingenious counterweight system that would assist workers in getting the granite up to the king's chamber.
It is a very good theory.
The Grand Gallery is a weird space in the Great Pyramid. It has details that puzzled archaeologists.
And it also has, like, this gallery has a lot of scratch marks on the walls, by the way, insinuating that there would have been, like, maybe some contraption or something, you know, with over time rubbing against the wall, causing damage.
For a long time. Audin believes the Grand Gallery helps move impossibly heavy stones by functioning like a railroad track. The stone benches are actually the rails for carts on wooden rollers. Remember, no wheels. Essentially a huge granite block at the bottom of the external ramp would be attached with a rope to a trolley car, loaded up with heavy blocks at the top of the Grand Gallery.
When was the wheel invented? Around 3,500 BCE, before current. It was just before the wheel.
When the trolley cars rolled down the Grand Gallery,
the
heavy granite block would be pulled up the ramp. There's even evidence of scuffing from the repeated impact of something heavy in the Grand Gallery.
Yeah, here you can see the scratches. Do you see this line right here? Like, these are all over the chamber. I've heard, I haven't been, but...
Once the heavy granite beams are in place, the external ramp has served its purpose. Now, the pyramid is too tall for it to be practical, so the builders switch things up. They dismantle the external ramp and use its blocks to start building the rest of the pyramid from the inside out, with an internal ramp, kind of like the driveway spiraling up inside a parking garage.
That's a good visual.
Audin calculates the ramp had to be less than 3 meters wide, and the workers would have needed somewhere to stand to turn the block. So he proposes that at the end of each flight of the ramp, there must have been a big space left open for the workers to turn the block.
And this is where we get to the notch.
Or cranes. And there's actually evidence of one of these spaces. There's a previously unexplained notch that corresponds to Odon's predictions for what the spaces would look like, about 83 meters up the pyramid.
Yeah, so internal ramp theory is theory number 2, right? This is a really good theory, and like you're able to see a really clever solution like this. You're like, yeah, let's do the external ramp, but let's have an internal, let's have a counterweight. The counterweight system is quite genius in that it solves this problem of the really heavy, the heaviest stones, 50 or so tons of granite, transported up 60 meters high into the pyramid. The problem with the internal ramp is that these gaps that you're expecting to see just don't show up. Like the voids that they found primarily was the north face corridor shows up on the scan, the big void, and the notch. The thing about the notch is that people are not allowed to climb the pyramid, so very few people have been up there. In this documentary that they're showing clips from, his friend is allowed to go up there and do a heat scan of the walls, but Jean-Pierre is not allowed to join. So he does. Jean-Pierre has to stand on the ground. This is the villain guy that we talked about. Said that Jean-Pierre is not allowed to go up there because he doesn't support Jean-Pierre's research products. And this notch, it looks like this up here. You can go inside, and there's like a small empty space. But this wasn't like a designed room, and I don't think it was. It's hard to imagine it was intentionally left this way. So you would want to see more things like this, you know? So, for example, that video does not prove internal ramp. That's really what I wanted to say.
Why not entertain an even more sophisticated theory for how they built the pyramids?
This one I'm not familiar with. Oh no.
In 2024, a flurry of newspaper articles announced that the mystery of the pyramids was
No. Don't let this be the no. No, bro. No. Okay, please turn this idea down. Don't. Okay, this is a very bad theory. If it's the water elevator.
Another peer-reviewed study from 2024 offers a fascinating theory. It proposes a radical and controversial idea.
But this was not even for the. This was not for the Great Pyramid, by the way. This paper, I think it was for the pyramid of the Step Pyramid.
The ancient Egyptians might have used hydraulic power to raise heavy stones. In other words, a water-powered elevator. The researchers, including hydrologists, mechanical engineers, and geographers, found evidence that the earliest Egyptian pyramid could have been built using a floating wooden elevator.
Could have, right?
Rainfall and floodwater would be collected into a nearby structure that functions as a dam. A system of underground conduit.
But you have to answer why this pyramid, built with this incredible hydraulic engineering, is somehow so much less sophisticated. Like, this is not a incredible pyramid by any standards compared to the Great Pyramid. And it looks a bit bad now, but we're talking about this one. It's not that tall. It's not that pretty. We're water elevating this and saying like, yeah, but it has to be consistent, you know? It's quite a leap from this to the other one.
It guides that water into a shaft running from underneath the pyramid up through its central axis, kind of like a volcano. This internal shaft is where all the upward movement is generated. Within the shaft, floating on the water surface, is a heavy wooden platform, which workers would load up with heavy stones from the ground level. Then they'd open and close valves near the bottom of the shaft, which would feed in or drain out the water.
I mean, it's like the Panama
Manipulating
Canal,
the water levels in this way would raise and lower the wooden platform like an elevator.
There's so many issues to this,
It could raise the platform to heights of at least 17 meters. Then workers would unload the stones and construct the pyramid from the inside out. So if Khufu's pyramid were built with some kind of water elevator, it would have to be bigger and perhaps more complex.
And it would, like they say with internal ramp, the problem with internal ramp is that they have to be very careful with the spiral ramp to not interfere with the internal structure. And then they argue that the pyramid with the by far most complex internal structure, with things, by the way, going straight through the middle, like the big step, the great step in the pyramid is bang on in the middle of the pyramid. And other chambers too are very close to the middle. Like, this is not
complex. So far, no comparable shaft is known to exist in the Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
Ramps, however, are found all over archaeological excavations of ancient Egypt. So the most common theories continue to put forward some sort of ramp as the dominant construction model.
Yes.
There are other potentially viable scientific theories that try to solve pieces of this puzzle. One expert we spoke with suggests multiple smaller ramps from all sides to cut down on construction.
Yeah, this is starting to look like the Stottleman ramp. This was suggested in like the 90s, I think, where you have something like this, like a spider type formation, which allows, more work crews to pull up more things at the same time. Still doesn't get you all the way, by the way, but it gets you quite far. It's just, at the time they built it, there weren't that many space limitations on the plateau. This wouldn't work for later pyramids. Like, you couldn't do this for Khafre's one, because it would maybe go, you know, too close to the other pyramid, make it harder, but yeah. I just want to put this theory to rest, because this one is out there, guys. This one is really out there. So I messaged History for Granite, right? I'm gonna get the list now. I'm gonna get the list. History for Granite, by the way, providing this, absolutely based. Argument number 1 he sent me. The stepped pyramid at Saqqara is high above the Nile River, and it would take an incredible amount of effort to bring that much water to such an elevation. The Nile River around this area, at least around Giza, can flood at up to about 20 meters above sea level. How high above sea level is Saqqara? Saqqara is located at an elevation of approximately 39 meters above sea level. So already from the Nile River, even in flooding season between May and August, you would expect them to still manage to get another 15 meters up of water, which requires very fast water flow, incredible water power. Another thing to consider here, the stepped pyramid complex has burials below the elevation of the central shaft, which would have been submerged. So this is the map of the tunnels below. It's a little complex. This is the central shaft they're talking about, which they argue could be a water elevator. And so, you know, if you have you would add the burial in later, but the question is how you get the water out, I suppose. And then this is the next one. The central shaft ends at the base of the pyramid. It doesn't go up into the pyramid. Back in the day and in the very first pyramids, which this one is one of, the tunnels were all below. They were just cut into the bedrock, and then they placed a massive monument on top. It looks like this. This is that middle thing with the sarcophagus below, which we know is used for burial. And there is no sign the shaft continued even further upwards into the pyramid. Okay, so the shaft does not continue upwards, even past the base of the pyramid. No proof of that. The step pyramid is made of smaller stones than 4th dynasty pyramids that one or a few workers could transport. This is true. Let me find the documentary where I saw this.
At the Djoser pyramid, for example, we can see that the size of the stones, the blocks, is smaller than in the later pyramids of the 4th dynasty.
So the argument is that you wouldn't need a water elevator to transport these bricks. They're literally brick-shaped. By the way, cool list, no? Are you convinced yet? Type 1 if you're convinced yet. Or if you still believe water elevator. No other pyramid has a central shaft like the stepped pyramid, nor a system of connecting tunnels that could hypothetically be used for a water elevator. And this is the problem, right? You have to argue that they either just nailed hydraulics with water elevators before the wheel was invented with this pyramid, and then stopped doing it because it was a hassle, and never returned to it and left no proof of it, no marks, and all these arguments. Or that they did it, but then perfectly concealed it, and somehow researchers have got it all wrong until now. They've even scanned, you know, like the pyramid of Khafre and found nothing inside the pyramid. So the pyramid of Khufu is the only one that they found even anything inside. But anyway, thanks to History for Granite for giving us this list. Amazing to be able to talk about it. Thank you all for watching today, YouTube chat. Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye. Good night.